Hi everybody and welcome back. Now in this lecture we're going to look at creating a list of numbers. So I've just started off as usual with some comments up the top, and we're going to look at how we can use the list function to convert a series of numbers into a list. So in the last lecture we saw that the range function simply prints out a series of numbers. But we can use the list function to convert that series of numbers into a list. So let's have a look at that now. And let's start off with a comment. Converting numbers into a list. Perfect. So numbers equals list, open brackets, range, open brackets, and in this range let's place 1 to 6. And don't forget to close off with 2 closing brackets. And now print numbers. There we go, a list of numbers. So instead of the series, we have a list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can do more with the range function. Let's print out a list of odd numbers between 1 and 101. So let's have a look. Odd numbers equals list, range, 1 to 101, and 2. And I'll explain the 2 now in just a moment. And let's print that out. Oh, I can't print that out without my print statement, so print odd numbers. And there we go, all odd numbers up to 101. And in this example, the range function starts at 1 and it then adds 2 to it. So the last value we have in our range here is 2. It adds 2 repeatedly until it reaches or passes the end value of 101. The range function can be used to create almost any set of numbers that you want. Here's an example of how to create a list of the first 10 square numbers. So don't forget that in Python, 2 asterisk symbols represent exponents. And we saw that back when we started with numbers. So let's create an empty list. So squares equals, and open and closing square brackets. For value in range 1 to 11. And I've forgotten my opening bracket there, so don't make that mistake. To remove that space, colon. I used to always forget the colon, so don't forget that, and if you do get an error, it's probably because you made a typo or you just left out the colon, which is an easy thing to do. Square equals value, so the value in the range, 2. Then squares equals append square. So all of this should be very familiar to you. If it's not, go back to the previous lectures and have a look. And then print squares. So let's have a look. Oh, we have an error. And where is our error? Append is not defined. And why is append not defined? Well, because I have an equal sign, and as we know, it doesn't work that way. So it's append to our square, and that should be dot append. There we go. Let's have a look. And there we go. In our third list, we have a list of squared numbers, 1 to 11. Not bad. So what else can we do with a list of numbers? Well, let's create a new list, dig, and let's call this list digits, digits, digits. And let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. So there we have a list of digits. How about finding the minimum number in a list? Print minimum, M-I-N for short, digits, digits. Let's have a look. There we go, our last line here, number 1, the minimum number in our list. What about the maximum? Let's just change minimum to max, M-A-X. 5. How about one more, the sum? There we go, 15, the sum of the digits in our list. So that's been a brief introduction into a list of numbers and how we can use the range function and for loops to manipulate them. We'll come back to this topic again in future lectures. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lecture.